Okay, this is Orlando Wilson. What I want to talk about in this video slash podcast, because we're putting things out in both formats now, is a case I undertook quite a few years ago now, 20 years ago. And that's why I'm able to talk about it, because it's well spent. I want to talk about this case because it will highlight some of the problems and some of the issues you can have when going after scammers and the issues of dealing with international law enforcement, courts, etc. To be honest with you, this case took too long and was a major headache for me for quite a while. But when you commit to doing things, you have to see them through, right? Anyway, the story begins. The client approached me. He'd been ripped off for, or scammed out of, $1.9 million. He had invested $1.9 million with a broker, a high-risk commodity broker, etc., who at the time was based in Riga, Latvia. The client had gone to Latvia. He met this guy. The guy's name was Alexander Lorenz. Went by Alexander Lorenz and a few other names. He met with this guy. Lorenz took him around to a hotel he owned, a couple of apartment blocks he owned, etc. Gave him a good time. Well, when we checked things out, he didn't own the hotel. He didn't own the apartment blocks. He most probably paid off the concierge in all the places he took the client to just to impress him, to show him he had money, to show him he was stable, etc. So the client was happy to give him $1.9 million. How things played out, the client was getting reports on his funds. He made some money, lost some money, made some money, lost some money. They were doing okay, and then they crashed. And he got a bill from Lorenz saying he owed him something like $60,000. His 1.9 had disappeared, and now he owed Lorenz about 60 grand. This came in just as I was transitioning from London to the US, to South Florida. So it was one of those I was trying to work it out at the time with my contacts in Eastern Europe, contacts in the Baltic states, and I had very good contacts there in the day. They were working things on their side, checking things out, etc. We managed to find out that Lorenz had lost an arbitration court hearing in Paris and owed two American companies from there, over $6 million. When I got to the US, I'd already been speaking to people in the area I was going to, Hollywood, Florida. They'd recommended to me a private investigator there. The big fish in the small pond, shall we say. And this was the IPS store on Hollywood Boulevard. If they're still in business and they don't like me talking about them, well, all I can say is sue me, because I still have all the case paperwork and it won't make you look too good. Anyway, I got them to do a background check for me on this guy, Lorenz, because we heard that he'd lived in the US for a number of years. And they found out that he owed $4 million in tax arrears, civil. So with that and the arbitration hearing out of Paris, he owed over $10 million. So we're trying to, at this point, apply pressure to him and get the authorities in Latvia to do something. After a couple of months, I get a message from my associates in Latvia asking me why I didn't tell them about Lorenz having a criminal background. Why I didn't tell them that apparently he had warrants out for him. I didn't tell them because I didn't know. So, with the little information they gave me, I phoned up the US Marshals. I think it was in Portland, Oregon. And again, everybody's nice that, yeah, we'll take your details. We'll get back to you if anything pops up. About 30 seconds after I put the phone down, my phone's ringing with the US Marshal on the line saying, where is he? We want him. So Lorenz had federal warrants out for him that the private investigators I got to do the background check in Hollywood, Florida, missed. They missed he had quite a bit of a substantial criminal background, and he had federal warrants out for him. The marshals were looking for him. Why did they miss this? I take it all they done was run run an online check through one of the databases, private investigation databases, and just run civil cases, etc. They didn't want to spend the extra $2 or $3 and run criminal. If they run criminal, they'd have given me a lot more information, etc. This, in a lot of ways, the fact I didn't tell my associates, the private investigators missed, this guy's had federal warrants out for him, made me look stupid. But this is another reason when people say to me about dealing with licensed private investigators and somebody's got a license, so they must be credible. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody until they've proven they're trustworthy. So that was a mistake on my part by trusting a Florida private investigator that screwed things up. Anyway, as the case went on, Lawrence, by this point, we take it was talking to the police that were talking to him and got the police on his side. From what I remember, from what I understand, cops were spoken to, cops got moved around, cops were replaced. Why? Because they were working with Lawrence and we were looking into Lawrence. Lawrence was known to be a scammer. The next thing Lawrence done to torpedo my client, and it was a very, very smart move, was to take my client to court, arbitration court in London. And the arbitration court wanted my client to pay $10,000. They were going 50-50. Lawrence put up $10,000. My client should have put up $10,000. But at this point, my client was like, he wasn't putting up any more money. And why the hell should he put up money for a hearing, etc. in London? It was, to him, it was a closed case that he was owed the money. At that time, I spoke to the City of London Police, and the City of London Police said they weren't interested in the debt because it was a civil debt, it had nothing to do with UK. But if Lawrence set foot in the UK, because he had US federal warrants, they were more than happy to arrest him. Anyway, even though we presented all the evidence to the arbitration court, and the lawyer was known to some people that I knew, and I take it they spoke to him. Even though we presented all the evidence of Lawrence owed money in the US, he had federal warrants in the US, he owed money in Paris, etc., etc. He was a professional scammer. I think there was more evidence we put on the table about his activities. Even though we put that down, the arbitrator come up with a split decision that nobody really owed anybody anything. Why? Because my client didn't put down the $10,000 needed, £10,000 needed for the arbitrator. So Lawrence then walked away with a judgment from the UK arbitration court saying he didn't really owe my client anything. So you can see there that even if you have the evidence, you can prove somebody's a scumbag. That a lot of times, a lot of law enforcement will be thinking about lining their own pockets. A lot of lawyers, especially when they should be given impartial judgments, will be thinking about lining their own pockets. Did Lawrence pay extra money to the lawyer? Well, who knows? But business is business, right? Are people beyond corruption? These days, I would say nobody is beyond corruption and nobody is beyond being bought off. So this is the type of thing you need to understand when you're dealing with such cases. So I hope this video has given you a few things to think about, highlighted some of the problems you can encounter, especially in the international investigation world. So follow me along on social media for more stories. There's going to be more coming about well-spent cases. And if you're connected with me on social media, if you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out with any relevant questions. In the meantime, be good, stay safe, and if you got $1.9 million to invest, be very careful who you give it to.